Where am I? What is this? Am I in season 2, episode 1 of Horror Vision? Yeah, I am, and so are you. What's up, everybody? Tommy and I are back at it, and I am stoked. How has everybody been doing? I hope you have been fantastic. Again, thank you from all the people at Motor City Nightmares. I had an amazing time, but today we have a special guest. It's a long interview. He has so much to say. We had a lot to talk about. It's going to be cut into 2 parts for all of your viewing and listening pleasures. He is a director, a writer, a producer, second unit director, an actor, and a special effects artist. In the special effects world, I had the honor of working with him and getting to use some of his props and prosthetics in a couple of Tommy's movies, Little Red Devil and Born of Earth. Yeah, you know him. You enjoy him. Fantastic. And it was really great to, after all these years, to kind of be reacquainted and to sit down and talk to him via Zoom. He was kind enough to join us and kind enough to invite us to a premiere of his most recent movie. We got to see him out here in LA. Got to see the movie Escape from Death Block 13. It is a fun ride starring Robert Bronzi. A Hungarian-born actor. Looks like Charles Bronson. It's insane. But either way, they are bringing that one to, it was in the cinemas. It might still be in some select theaters. But right now you can watch it on your streaming platforms. Go rent it and drop some likes. Drop some comments on what you guys think too. You guys, let's make this a little more interactive. He's been doing this for a really, really long time. His first movie debuted as a director in 1994 on, I think it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, but Mosquito is it's a cult classic. It's so much fun. Back when Sci-Fi had fucking fun movies, pardon my French. He directed Boogeyman 3, which he was hand selected by Sam Raimi and Sony Pictures to do that film. Another fun one is Axe Giant, The Wrath of Paul Bunyan. Lightning Strikes, which is a really cool movie. Xena Princess Warrior, Hercules, you name it. I mean, the guy has so much knowledge in the industry. It's so amazing listening to him. And I know you guys are going to really enjoy your time watching this interview. So first of all, welcome back. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Look forward to doing more of these and bring you guys more interviews in person. Hopefully, like we said, things are back. So we'll get to revisit some of the guests last year, go into their studios, see some of their work, what they've been doing, little tours, and make it a little bit different and a little more interactive for everybody. So start dropping your comments and everything in these interviews so we know what you want to see, maybe some ideas. Let's get to it, because here we go. We got a long one with the incredibly talented, super handsome silver fox himself, Gary Jones. Beep, 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 bang.
The filmmaker, I'd know how to turn a camera on. What do you think?
There you go.
Oh man, I'm the sucker that's not on his computer, so I've got the mini screen. I'll work on that in post.
James, good to see you again. Been a few years.
It's been 15 years.
Oh man, is that when we did that movie 15 years ago?
I don't know. Well,
Something
we did
like
this
that.
movie first, and then we did Born of Earth after that. So,
But yeah, I think 2006 was Little Red Devil, and when you did the prosthetics on my throat and did the costume design for Little Red Devil, awesome.
yeah.
One of the best creatures I've ever seen.
Sash, right? That
My
was his
best
name.
death scene ever.
Yeah, that
He was
awesome.
great.
And Dee, we see Dee all the time still. So
She's wonderful. I've
she
never had her. I never worked with her in a movie. I always wanted to put her in a movie.
You did work with her on our movie.
No, but I mean one that I wanted to direct.
Oh yeah, she's doing a lot of stuff. So
No, she's great. I'll get her in a movie one of these days.
Yeah, she comes to our show every year. So
Cool.
come on and see her.
Yeah,
So
I think the last time I was at your show, she was there and her daughter was there.
yeah,
I went over there and introduced myself. Hi, Dee, I love your movies. I really like you. And she's like, I said, I really love your work and following your stuff. She goes, great, great. Hey, you should meet my daughter.
Yeah, she's always
She's doing movies now too, and she's really good, really talented. So she hustles me over there to meet her daughter, and then she walks off. I'm like, okay. Like, hey, mom's pushing the kids. That's great, right?
Yep. Well, we should do our intro, right? We want.
Yeah.
Cool.
So horror. This is the first in our second season, Horror Vision 2020. So thank you. This is Gary Jones here with us. Okay, you're gonna have to redo this, Jim.
Okay,
he always doesn't
Tommy,
do.
Go ahead.
All right. Now I'm being recorded, so now I have to. Gotcha.
Tommy, ba-da-bum-bum.
Hi, welcome to Horror Vision 2020 in 2021. It is our second season, and we'd like to welcome Gary Jones, director and producer, and all of the other stuff included.
and a writer.
Okay, so director, writer, producer, and everything else included.
Visual effects.
Visual effects. Okay, so I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about yourself so that you can fill in all the blanks that I don't have.
Well, actually, you touched on all of them.
Okay.
I started out doing special effects. Really, that was my entry into the business, so that I could get into the director's chair. But I made my first movie, Mosquito, back in 1993, 94, along with my producing partners Tom Chaney, Eric Pasquarelli, and Dave Thury. And that was kind of the beginning, right? That was the first thing, and that sort of launched me. And as a director with Mosquito, we made all the bugs, we did all the effects, so I was able to just load it with effects, so that way no one would notice that I didn't know how to direct.
It's a good movie. It was a good movie. But no, everybody worked really hard on it. A great crew, and I mean, I could have done it without all everybody was on board and all the partners. You know, I mean, it was a team effort. But so I started out. That was kind of my entry into directing. But I had years and years of special effects work, working on Moontrap and Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2: Army of Darkness, and all the way back. So I kind of came out of that realm of regular special effects, miniatures, pyrotechnics and stuff, makeup effects. Yeah. Then I moved into directing with Mosquito. And then after Mosquito, I moved into TV for Xena Warrior Princess, and I did a bunch of different TV things. So the career kind of went that way. I was able to get into the directing, and once I moved past that, I started doing like Sci-Fi Channel movies. And then eventually, I'd always done a little bit of writing with Mosquito and some of the earlier projects, but I've gotten more into writing. And now I'm doing a lot of producing. I've been producing for a lot of my friends, Josh Becker and Bob Kurtzman and Ed Douglas from Midnight Syndicate. So I really kind of enjoy that part too. I always thought, well, the director's chair is the top spot. I mean, I love that spot, but I really like producing a lot. I get to, I get to kind of have my hand in, and I don't have to go home at night and stay up for 15 hours to figure out how you're going to make the day tomorrow. Next day, I know.
You have 50 setups or 60 setups, but you're only going to get 20.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
A little heartbreaking. So I get to be the producer
exactly
and say,
how I feel.
Get to be the producer and say, all right, here's your scene now. You got 3 setups. Let's see you, genius. And so, it's really coming out of the special effects and into the director's chair, which is where I always wanted to be. And I didn't focus as much on the writing earlier on. I mean, I did to launch my first films. But over the last 5 or 6 years, actually 10 years with Axe Giant and different things, I started to focus more on the writing, because at the end of the day, you can be really good at something, and if you're in the business of making movies and television and stuff, yes, you could be an actor, you could be a producer, you could be a director or special effects, and you can have a good career. But if you're writing and creating the story, the story is everything. If you have that and they want it, if you have a great story and they want it and actors want to be in it, then you might get to direct it. So I've been focusing a lot on the directing, and my new film, Escape from Death Block 13, which actually it's coming out on October 1st at the Ford, Wyoming drive-in. So it's
Yes.
our theatrical release is starting on October 1st. We're going to be there for a week or longer if everybody shows up. And we're kind of moving it around the country. So I'm pretty excited with that. And this is the first time I'm taking the credit, written and directed by. And so
really? It's the first time you took both credits?
Well, as all in one,
Oh, I see.
Written and directed by. Typically, I'm a writer on the screenplay or story, but most everything else, I've always had at least one or two partners, Tom Chaney on Mosquito and Steve Hodge, and then Gunnar Henson, or Jeff Miller. So I've always worked with other people. I like working with, I get an idea, and then the first thing I want to do is start pulling people in to help me make it, but Death Block, I had the idea and I sat down, I said, okay, I got to write this, I just got to get this done. This is the next step. So I really, wrote the script and got it, and launched it. So, but that was the idea of like, okay, it's written and directed by now. I'll still just direct or produce, but I'm really moving that way of, writing and directing and kind of like, I got to do my own thing. It's like, unless somebody comes up with a script and a nice budget.
Yep.
And the script's good. It's a good story. I love
and that's very few and far between at times.
Everybody says it, it's like, all we got to do is get a good script. It's like, right. Hollywood can't get a good script. And they've only been doing it 100 years. It's really hard, good writing and good stories and scripts. Even, the people that have had won awards and, that are the top writers, they'll write 10 that'll just sit on a shelf, to get one maybe, or 20 or 30. So the writing's the thing, and if you can do that, I think as a filmmaker, you've got to have your hand in where you're going to have some more power, unless you direct a movie or produce a movie that's like a big box office hit, and there's people that do that, but the lion's share of the work out there is below the A-listers. There's more B and C listers than anything. There's a small group of A-listers, and everybody wants to be in the A-list, me included. But what I really wanted was just to be in it. That was my main goal, to be in it. And so I think that's like my goal is to write and direct and try to do at least one a year now for, I don't know, the next 30 years, maybe.
Yes, exactly. But I have to tell you that you are part of the reason why I became a filmmaker. In the very beginning, I was dating someone that worked on Mosquito, and I didn't know very much anything about, making movies or anything like that. So I would ask him all these questions because it was just like amazing to me, because I always loved horror. I had Fangoria subscription and everything, so it just, would follow, and I, followed you in the shadows, and I met you a couple times. And then you came to one of my shows for Axe Giant. And this is a quote that I always tell people, like when I'm doing classes and stuff, because I remember we were in the bar drinking for the party, having fun.
No, we were working. We were networking.
Always working. You're always
we were talking about how we got started in the business, and you looked at me and you go, because I'm like, how come it's so crazy? I can't stop. You said, because this business chooses you. You don't choose it. And I remember that quote all the time. That's something that goes in my head all the time. So it's your fault I'm this crazy.
It's like you don't have a choice. I grew up, sitting in front of the television, and I would get, back in the day, we'd get a newspaper, and on Sunday you'd get the comics, and then you'd get the TV guide, a little tiny book that listed everything that was on TV. And I'd get this thing as a kid, back in the late 60s, early 70s, and I'd read it, and I know every movie that's coming out. And remember, back in the day, a movie would be on TV, then you wouldn't see it for 5 years. So I get this thing,
I know,
highlight it all, and over dinner, my dad would go, all right, what's on Thursday? I go, okay, Thursday, Guns of Navarone, 8:00, and then, well, what's on Wednesday? Oh, the 4:30 movie, Godzilla versus Ghidorah, the three-headed monster or whatever. So I had all these things laid up. So I lived based on what was those movies I had lined up to watch. And, that I realized early on, that's what I wanted to do. And it's kind of like, and I've done a lot of other jobs. I've worked on the assembly line for years, I poured concrete, I was janitor. I mean, I've done everything, you know, changed tires. And invariably, you know, I enjoyed a lot of those jobs, you know, aspects of them. It was all physical labor stuff. But when I got good in those jobs, I could do it. And my mind would start to wander and like, wow, what if I could use this cement mixer, or, you know, I'm on the assembly line. What would be a good assembly line while I'm making shit, you know? And I'm thinking, yeah, I'll put the camera over there. So, or I'd go to somebody's wedding and I'd sit there, you know, we're in the church. I'd look around and go, man, this is a great location. You know, you could do, you know, that scene from The Godfather in here, or like the, you know, or it's a horror movie. Who knows what's going to, you know, going to come through the windows, you know? Yeah. So I would always find myself doing that. And I'm like, this is a problem, you know, you got to do, you have to go do what you do.
It's an addiction.
This is actually a two-part. I guess I'm going to jump back to what you said earlier about A and B list actors, so on and so forth. Because I just watched Midnight Mass, and the church in Midnight Mass reminded me of the church I grew up in, going to church. And every time I go to church, I'm like, this is a horror fucking movie. Going to church, it's in the middle of nowhere, out in the country. And in the church in Midnight Mass looks exactly the same, a little more rundown, et cetera, et cetera. But I wanted to ask a minute ago, like, how do you feel like the evolution of Netflix and all these streaming services and what it's doing, if it's hurting or if it's helping cinematographers, filmmakers getting their stuff out? Or so, Tommy, this is why I bring up Midnight Mass, is because I feel like Midnight Mass was his, like, Bly Manor and Haunting of Hill House was Hill House was fantastic. Yeah. And I feel like it's with the writing side, it became very wordy. And I'm like, well, is he just putting it out to put it out? Was it fine tuned, or is he like, Netflix gave me a deal? I just don't know what Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, if they're hurting or helping the industry.
Yeah.
Gosh, you know, that's actually the answer is, I think, both. But unfortunately, well, or the history of the world is, you know, when VHS tape came out, you know, when it first came out and the beta and VHS tape, you know, Hollywood was like, no one cares about that. You know, it was like, no one's going to, you know, who wants to pay $89 for that? You know, hey,
I remember 89. Yeah.
You know, and then very quickly you're thinking, all of a sudden video stores pop up and, hey, I can rent it for $4 or $7. So that's, you know, then all of a sudden Hollywood's like, what the hell? Everybody's renting these. They're not selling them. They're just renting them, you know? And then of course you get the, you know, my buddy who was in electronics, you know, would bring over the VHS, and then we're copying them. Yeah. So, you know, it's just what people did. So there we are. I'm caught in this quandary of like, I want to make movies. Yeah. I can't steal these movies. I have to pay for them, you know? Yeah. And so I think, and then, so VHS tape came in, and of course, what it did is, yes, it hurt, but it helped a hell of a lot of filmmakers that were creative enough to get their low budget movie idea done and out onto VHS tape and actually make money, and, you know, got them into the business.
Yeah, so like Full Moon was one of them, right?
Yeah.
Full Moon.
Oh yeah. And the filmmakers, you know, like, well, look at Evil Dead, you know, that came out in theaters and stuff, you know, and they got lucky, but it, you know, VHS tape, just like it blew that movie up. Right. So I think all of these, you know, and then DVD and all of these things help and hurt. DVD helped us with Axe Giant and some of the movies. VHS tape for Mosquito was great, you know. But then again, our distributor ripped us off. So, you know, the money is made over here, but you don't get it. That's another program.
That's a whole other animal, right?
Yeah. But I think all the streaming stuff, it's great. I mean, you know, we have these busy lives, right? And I think it's cool. Like, and I don't sit there all day and watch those things, right? Because I'm working. At about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night or whatever, when I'm done and I just can't think anymore, I'm like, I want to watch something. And then I go to Netflix or go to Amazon or any of these, and, you know, I have those subscriptions and I see what's on. Like, you know, I was waiting for The Irishman, you know, I'm waiting and I see these, or I binge watch Breaking Bad, you know. And so in one respect, it's great for me. On the other respect, you know, like you look at Amazon Prime, you know, you just get the subscription and you get a million movies. Well, guess what? You know, the top movies, the big Hollywood blockbusters, those people make money. But if you have an independent low budget movie that's on Amazon Prime, you're getting 7 cents every half. I mean, somebody watches the movie, you might make 15 cents.
Right. I get that. I get those deposits of like the highest was $4.
Yeah. So, when you look at it, you go, well, how does anybody, if nobody will go to the, your film can't get to the theater, it's hard to get to the theater. I mean, we're lucky that, we're going out on October 1st on Friday with Death Block, and it's booked in the theater. I mean, we didn't buy it. Awesome. It's booked. So, anybody goes to that show, I'll make some money, but, so I think it's hurting and it's helping, but it's kind of always been the way, right? Like the whole internet comes out and you're like, hey, I'll put my movie online and sell it, and people pay me to watch it. That's great. Well, YouTube, I've been shutting down Mosquito, my first movie on YouTube for over 10 years.
And I have to do that too. Born of Earth is on YouTube.
Yeah. And I've actually, years ago, I started looking at YouTube. I go, hey, there's Mosquito. It's the whole movie. Somebody uploads it, right? Yep. And there's commercials in there.
And they make money from it.
The person that uploaded it's making money. YouTube's making money.
Right.
So I have to fill out, you can upload anything, right? Virtually anything. But when I want to take it down, they make me fill out everything and my shoe size.
That's why I never filled it out yet.
And then they say, under penalty of whatever, you could be disavowed, you go to jail for misleading statements. I'm like, what about the guy or the girl that put up the movie?
Yeah. I know, exactly. Exactly.
So for years, I mean, I've shut down one site that had 400,000 views. And I'm thinking,
wow,
I just got a dime for every time those people watched it. Why not make us part of the equation? But, when you're not on the A list and you're not Disney, you don't count, So it helps because you get exposure, but it also hurts if you're a content maker and you don't have a distribution deal that's paid you money. If you have to do it yourself, there's a lot of platforms and the streaming's great, but it's really, really, really hard to make money at it unless you've got one distributor that has all the connections. Typically, the distributor will take your movie, but then they go through somebody else who goes through somebody else who puts it on. Once everybody takes their 10% and then your distributor takes 30 or 40, it's like DVD sales today. If your DVD is in Walmart, which is great, you have to sell 10,000 of them to see any money.
Right, because they do the buybacks too. So that's like there's so much going on there. It's like a moving animal.
I think it's great and it helps and it hurts. And I think that's kind of been the way it's always been. Like before there was VHS tape, and you made a movie, if you were able to actually finish a movie because you had to shoot on film and it cost money. And if you actually were able to get a movie done, even if you did it on 16 millimeter and blew it up to 35, and you had a title like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you had a great idea, like a real good genre or an exploitation thing, you could actually get that movie into theaters and have a chance to actually make money back in the day. But then, it all shifts and then VHS tape comes out. And so I think it hurts and it helps. You just have to figure out, you have to be on top of it all the time, always learning, always following what it is. What are people watching? Well, is it AVOD, Tubi with ads? They pay more money than some of the streaming. Well, but those ad ones usually come later after the streaming ones. So you've just got to keep, as a filmmaker or in the business, you have to keep up on it. Where's the content going? What will people pay for? And people will still buy a DVD, a VHS tape. They'll stream it. They'll download a link. I mean, you have to make your stuff available everywhere and go to a convention and sell your DVDs. And
right. Go to the convention, North City. So my son buys DVDs, any DVD that has something extra with it, like the Steelbook, he will buy all of them. Collectors will buy all of that stuff. So that's still viable, like you said.
Right. So, you do your making of, and do all of those extra things. But so, it's like, and of course, shooting digital now, all of a sudden now there's anybody can make a movie. There's no excuse for not making a movie.
Right.
Well, that's good. Well, what's the bad part? There's 1 million movies, which means there's probably 900,000 movies that are not very good. Now you got to cut through that to get, so yes, you can do it. You know, before you needed money to do it.
Yeah.
Right. To buy film and actually do it. So
Yeah.
you didn't have 1,000 movies being produced a week, you know? Well, now there's 1,000 made a week. But guess what? You know, you've got to cut through that noise. How do you cut through? You know, I came up with the idea for Mosquito for my first movie. I had other ideas for my first movie, and I looked at them all and I said, this has been done, this has been done, this has been done. I was saying, what's going to cut through the noise? So when I thought about, okay, I do effects, I'll do a giant mosquito, which actually is right up there, the poster. I thought, no one's done a giant mosquito. You know, there's the giant ants, the movie Them. So I said, that's it. That's my engine. I'll make something so audacious and out there that no one's seen. They have to look at it. Whether they like it or not, as long as they look at it, the door opens and I could stick my foot in the door before they slam it, right? So, and Tommy, you did the same thing. Like, I mean, you've done a lot of movies, but
Yeah.
I think it's Jingles, the Mr. Jingles. It just strikes a nerve, right? It just connects. And you know, I'm looking at all my movies. I'm like, well, I love all my movies. Mosquito's not my best movie. But again, it's those things like you have to find something original. I mean, everybody's why go in the woods and chase somebody with a chainsaw or a knife, right? Or an axe, or wear a mask. I mean, if you're going to do it, you really need to do something that and put the spin on it. And so that's the challenge now of like all this technology and all the streaming services and all shooting digital is all great, but it also means you've got so much, you know, the woods are deeper to make your way through, to get noticed. So that's why I go back to the writing. A good idea, I could have a script that I can't get money for, but then some A-list actor really likes, somehow it gets to them or it gets to a producer. They go, I see this for Tom Cruise, or I see this for, you know, pick the name, you know, and all of a sudden, you don't get to direct, you don't get to produce. You're a writer on it, and hopefully your name stays on it if it doesn't get rewritten too many times. But that's your way in. If you can write and you come up with a great idea, and you can get in at Netflix or on TV somewhere with an idea, and you can do Breaking Bad or whatever, you've got the power to direct, produce, act, whatever you want to do. You can move around that way. So I think that's the thing for younger filmmakers. It's like, come up with ideas first. You know, you'll learn how to produce and direct. Trust me, when you get out there on day one, like me, and I went, oh shit, you know, there's 60 people here. I got this list of like 100 shots, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get 10 of these. Yeah. And they're all looking like, what are we doing? Well, I thought,
go ahead.
You know,
sorry.
If I don't have a plan, the ship everybody just sails off. Even if it's wrong, you have to do it. You just got to keep the momentum going. So ideas sell. They'll carry you through. And if you can't do something, or you don't have as much experience, you will be able to connect with people that do. And again, the movie's a team. So try to be the one that has that idea. And I think all the streaming platforms, you know, again, there's a chance to get on a bunch of different ones and get noticed, you know, but it's the idea that's, you know, people are going to go on there and search. I mean, how many people go on there? Do you go on Netflix and start typing in B and go down the entire? No, nobody does that.
I look what they have already put up there for me.
You look what's up there, or you go, hey, I heard about this kind of cool movie that's coming out called Escape from Death Block 13, but I'm not, it's not in the top queue. So I type it in and it comes up. Why? Because I saw it on Facebook or something. Oh, it is on there. And then I can watch it, you know? So you've got to get your ideas out there and all. And of course, the social media, you know, that's the big challenge too, using that.
That's another
social marketing.
Another thing to navigate. It's just like, it's very tough to do, especially being
the marketing game has changed so much. I think like for Netflix, Hulu, all those things, it's word of mouth. Like you go on to any of those, it's like, oh, top 10 in the country on Netflix.
Yeah.
But I mostly will watch something that someone's like, oh, you got to watch Squid Game.
I called him. I go, you got to watch Squid Game, and then it was number one.
It's like, so it's social marketing. So you got to have something that's, but like you look at movies like Blood Glacier, you know, something like that. Like no one would ever hear of it.
I love
no one would ever think of like, oh, that movie's really good. Yeah. Until you hear about it, you're like, fine, I'll watch it, and you watch it, like, fuck, that movie's really good.
Yeah.
So like, it's this whole new marketing program and plan, like. People, if you get somebody to talk about it, you get somebody to watch it.
Right. And you know, it's exactly it. I mean, I don't peruse, I don't go through the dictionary and try to find new titles.
Right.
Now, here's what I will do. I'll go on there and hit the documentary button and see what's the new documentaries, or I'll do the website where you go on those sites, what's on Netflix or whatever.
Right.
And I'll see the new document or documentaries or movies that are leaving.
Yeah.
Yep.
That list is a lot easier for me. It's shorter to go through, but it's completely the word of mouth, which it's kind of always been in a way. And with this social networking and all the social media stuff, you don't know how the information's getting out. Like somebody pays $10,000 to get their giant mosquito movie at the top of the Google search. I don't pay anything. Guess what? Mine's 17 pages down.
Right.
Well, because that's how they make that's how they make money, right?
Yeah.
It's all about. So once again, once the internet comes out and now anybody can put stuff up and it's there, well, the handlers come in and they figure out how to make money on it. They figure out how to suppress something and move something up, who pays more. So every little thing that comes up, the new thing, you get into it. But as soon as it seems really good for you, someone's going to figure out how to get in between you, because there's, for every filmmaker out there that actually makes a movie, whether you're on the crew, an actor, whatever, there's 15 or 20 people that are making a living off of your work that never touched the movie.
I never realized that.
And sadly, most of them, there's no talent there. They just happen to be a gatekeeper. Oh, hey, I know a guy who does the thing at Netflix. So now I'm just going to go talk to people that have movies and make a phone call and get 10%. I mean, nothing wrong with that. But as soon as something comes up, the gatekeepers come in and fill a void, and they're always trying to keep you from the money. So as a filmmaker, they're always lining up because they're like, hey, that guy they make a good movie. Hey, that's a great idea. How do I get some of that money? Well, what do they need from me? Well, I know somebody, or I'll set up a company and just do this. And there's nothing wrong, it's capitalism, it's fine. But you've got to be like on the ball with that.
Yeah.
But the social media thing, a friend of mine goes, hey, do you watch Train to Busan? And I'm like, never heard of it.
Good movie.
So I avoid it. So one night I'm like, what is that thing? Train to bruschetta or something. I don't know. So I type it in. I watched the movie. I'm like, how did I not know this movie was out there?
It's a good movie, right?
It's so good.
Exactly.
I'm thinking, but see, here's the thing. How can a movie that's, and you can pick 10 right now, movies that are so good, but we never hear about them.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I've seen a lot of them. Yeah.
Because there's other movies that have bigger promotional budgets and they can skew the searches, and they, that's the way it works. Whoever has millions of dollars in advertising is what's going to get in front of people. Yeah. So Train to Busan's a great movie, and I've seen 15 crappers. Why? Yeah. Because they were in my face. So I wait. I like to wait and hear from people.
Yeah, because my son watches different. He has his special YouTube people that he watches, and he goes and he'll see those movies, or he's like, "Oh, I know the kill count on that movie, Mom." I'm like, he's like, "I watch this guy that does kill counts on YouTube." I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty cool."
The kill count. That's a good one.
Yeah. But it's true. He's like, "Oh yeah, I know this and I know this." So I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But yeah, running the film festival for Motor City Nightmares over the years, I've seen so many movies, most of them not good, like you said. And then you have your 10% that are just fabulous. And then 8% of those I never see again.
Right.
Never even see on any streaming or anything. It's just gone.
I mean, I've seen movies that got zero distribution
Mhm.
that blow away any movie I've ever made.
Yep.
And I go, well, why am I, what am I doing? This person's a better film. I mean, look at what they do.
Right.
But the movie doesn't get sold. So again, somebody else has to, you make your movie or make your product or whatever your brand is.
Yeah.
You need cheerleaders. You need somebody that like it. And you got to cut through to find who those people are, whether it's a distributor or somebody who knows somebody else. I mean, again, it's this, it's the whole networking thing, and it's good and it's bad. That's good and it's bad too, because you meet people. I can't tell you how many times I've went to, and I don't go to parties that much anymore. I used to go.
Oh yeah.
In LA, right? When we lived in LA, I'd go to these Hollywood things, and the actors are having a party, that I know are writers and different things. I can't tell you how many times I go in there and there's like somebody, and I won't name the names, but there's a famous person, and they're like, and I go, oh, hey, nice to meet you, or I get introduced, and they shake your hand, and the whole time they're looking past you to see who's more important in the room. And I go,
oh yeah.
And so I'm shaking their hand and I'm doing this kind of, hey, and you don't get it. And I'm thinking, I'll never do that. Well, guess what? Then I catch myself doing that. And I'm like, this is a problem, So it's really hard to stay like a normal person and yet push what you do and keep it going. But you have to find the mix that works for you. I mean, some people can just be cold. I'll find someone who can help me. I don't care about anybody else. There's nothing wrong with that. That's their personality. But it's just tough. I think it's always better to, be as friendly and as helpful as you can. And, everybody is still climbing, but you never know. You just never know who all of a sudden is going to get that deal there, and they hire you to direct or they hire you to do something. I mean, it's happened to me a couple of times, so, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's look, and I'm still going to school on all this stuff.
I know, me too. I know it's a sickness. It's really a sickness.
That's the fun about the industry that we're all kind of in, is that every day is education.
It is.
I love that part.
Well, I thought.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that, I left the practical effects and the makeup and the miniatures and the pyrotechnics behind. I still have all my fingers. And when I started directing, I go, okay, that's it. I don't have to do that anymore. And I love that stuff. I wanted to direct. So I'm doing this movie, and that's the other thing, the movies I've gotten to do, go around the world and do these. And I was doing a Sci-Fi Channel movie, and I was in Romania or Transylvania, actually, in this castle up in the top of a mountain. And there's a chase scene, and they have these old fashioned bolt action rifles. And there's a little shootout as the chase is happening. So we get all the way up to the top of this mountain with the crew. It had all the Romanian crew, and the prop guy and the effects guy didn't bring any blanks for the guns. So, and this was back, I don't know, 2005 or 6, way back then. And no, 2007. And the producer was there and said, well, you're going to have to get rid of the guns and just do a chase. And I'm like, well, no, they got to shoot at each other. I mean, it's just, I got nothing else to, there's got to be some jeopardy. And he goes, well, I can't afford it. We don't have the blanks, and I'm not paying for visual effects because there's no budget for it. And I said, but it's just a muzzle flash. And he goes, yeah, well, you want to pay for it? I go, no, look, I'll tell you what, I'll do them. And if I can't do them, I'll pay for them. He goes, as long as you deliver them. So I shot the scene. And of course, I had been playing with Photoshop and different things, and I've been kind of keeping up on effects, reading, but I hadn't touched it much. And then I get back, we cut the movie, and I'm like, okay, and here comes all the footage in. I'm like, oh, shoot, now I got to put these shots together. So it forced me to go, now I got to do visual effects. So I went, all right, I got some, did a Google search. I got this program. I got After Effects. I got all the Adobe stuff. I said, I got to learn this shit because, and I can use it in between film jobs. So I learned it. I did them all on that movie. And after that, that became a side career. So I went back into special effects in the visual effects realm, and I've done not quite as much, but almost as much in visual effects as I used to do in practicals. And
wow.
that kept me alive for like 6 or 7 years while I'm struggling to get money to make movies, So
Yeah.
so I learned it, So again, we're always learning. And I think you have to keep learning, and you have to keep developing what you can do. And you have to find those good stories, They can come from anywhere. And, I think it's just important to not, it's too easy to get jaded and disappointed. And if if you're not prepared for the long haul, it just is what you do. I always thought, well, Spielberg did Jaws. I remember got my driver's license. I drove to the theater to watch Jaws. I just got my license. And I watched Jaws in 1975. I'm like, oh, this is great. And I went, he's 27. He's not some old guy with a pipe. And I thought, I'll be exactly where he's at when he's 27. That's what I'm going to do. So I get to 27 and I hadn't made a movie. I get to 29, I haven't made a movie. I'm married, and I told my wife, I go, well, if I'm not making movies and in the business by the time I'm 30, I'll quit. Well, if I don't make it until at 35, I'll quit. So this idea of trying to follow somebody else's path, sure, the job, but your path is never going to be that person's path.
Right.
If you like to direct, if you like acting, if writing or producing, you get inspired by these other people, but they've made bad movies. They've written scripts that never sold. They've acted in movies and were great. They've acted in movies and were miscast or whatever, So yes, you get inspired by other people, but you have to find your own path. Everybody's path's different, and you may not make it till you're 50 or 30.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, because it's not like a factory where you're just going to get, promoted and promoted and promoted. No,
this works that way.
Definitely no, not at all. In fact, Jim, that because he is an actor, but now he does editing and he does producing with me. We do a bunch of different stuff because we have to survive. We have to, and we just keep learning more and more.
It's the same thing. And it's crazy how the evolution, you just go on YouTube, you Google hey, I need to add this effect. Boom, here you go. Because I just edited a music video and I wanted to add film grain. And I just went to Google. I'm like, how do you add film grain in Adobe Premiere Pro? Blah, blah, blah. Boom. They said, boom, here you go. Do it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's beautiful. And I'm like, that's so easy.
Now that's amazing. That is amazing. So it's that's
but then
an artist with a paintbrush. Now you just have to know how to do it, right?
Now, obviously, the people that make the big bucks in that are like the Marvel editors that are they know green screen. They know all that blue. They know everything about that.
But
they do it the hard way. They do it the hard way.
And that's the thing. The good news about that is, that's what's inspiring is you can pick those tools up. When, the last few years when I did Axe Giant, we had very little money. And the idea was, well, I'll do a hybrid. I'm doing visual effects now. I'm not going to do all, it's a Sci-Fi Channel movie. And the goal was to sell it to Sci-Fi Channel, which meant it had to have a big monster every 15 minutes. And it had to chop people up with the big axe. It had to be crazy. So I thought, well, why don't we do it old school? We'll make a rubber monster suit, and we'll put him in front of the green screen and make everybody smaller, just flip it. Right. So that's what we did. We made a rubber suit. We made a giant rubber hand and a big axe and stuff. And, it was the mix of practical effects and visual effects allowed us to take a story about Paul Bunyan and make that movie into a Sci-Fi Channel movie style thing with Paul Bunyan, not just a man, but more of a creature, more like the idea was he's more like King Kong. You felt sorry for him, but he's going to kill some people, right? But so if I didn't learn those visual effects by sitting on a mountain, in Transylvania, going, I got to do this, figure this out when I get back to the U.S. I couldn't have done Axe Giant. I couldn't have done it on our budget. I'd have to hire all these people, and so I think that is great, like the YouTube thing, and you can go put the film grain on. Now, so can everybody else. Great, that's fine. Nothing wrong with it.
Apply it though. You got to apply. You got to put yourself in. Yeah.
It's a music video. Is it a good song? Is there something about it that grabs, right? Yeah. So it isn't just the tools. The tools are just tools.
Yeah.
It still has to be good content, but the biggest thing that's really saved me, in the last few years on my own movies is by forcing myself to learn the technology. And once I picked up all the, Premiere Pro and After Effects and Photoshop and all the Adobe software, I went, I need to own this software forever, because I can do everything with this software to make the movie. Whereas before, it's different people, it's so much different tools. So yes, now I have a package of software that I pay $60 a month for.
Me too, but it just sits for me.
Yeah, and I have, 3 computers, right? So $60 a month, I have my editing program. I have the Adobe Audition, which I use from time to time, but typically I'll bring in a sound mixer to do all that. But I have all my editing, all my sound, all my visual effects, all my color, all my outputs, media encoder, everything, Photoshop. I mean, $60 a month. It's like, well, back in the day, I'd need $65,000 a month to do what I'm doing.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, yes,
Exactly.
the software is there. That means anybody can do it. But what is the movie? How many of those do you got to cut through? How
Right.
many do you got to move around to get yours noticed now? Now learn the social media and social marketing, right?
Well, learning everything in
Yeah.
Adobe too is its own animal, because I pay for that every month, but I just use Photoshop right now. You know what I mean? So it's just like learning all of it, knowing all of that, to use all those tools is a whole nother animal.
Well, and that's the thing with, I did exactly the same thing. As I got these things and I went, holy shit. And I got the manual. I bought all, the
manuals.
Idiot's Guide, and then the real one for like $80 and the Idiot's Guide for $40. Of course, I went to the Idiot's Guide because it was smaller. Right? And, I'm reading these things in Photoshop. I mean, I'm pretty good with all the software, but I know for a fact that someone says, wow, you're great in Photoshop. I go, I don't know 1/10 of Photoshop.
Right.
Everything
Right.
it can do.
Right.
And I'll do something in Photoshop and it'll look great. And then a buddy will come in and go, why are you doing all that? I go, well, it's gonna make it work. He goes,
Just do
no,
click,
you
click,
just
click,
do
click.
this. Dude, apply it and use that filter. I'm like, oh, so you did it in 10 seconds. It took me 10 minutes. So again,
Or me, 10 hours,
man.
right?
That
it's your
sounds like
time.
my life story.
That is
so
my life story too.
all of this technology, you can go on YouTube, you can find it out to get where you got to go. The labor intensive, if you're doing it and it's your film, one thing we never do or we never take into account is, I only made the movie for $100,000. Well, how long did I work on that movie? What did I do? I worked on it 2 years. So you work for free for 2 years or a year, or you work 6 months for nothing. You can get $10-12 an hour at McDonald's. You can make, $500-600 a week, right? 2,400 a month, whatever, times, you can make $25,000 working at McDonald's, but you just worked on a movie and you didn't pay yourself $25,000. So that's the thing people forget, is that as a filmmaker,
That's our sickness.
it is. And so all the filmmakers out there I know, pretty much everybody I know that are working on our level. And I like to say we're not the A-list, but we're in the B-list is a big ocean.
Right. The big ocean. We're in the big ocean.
And I've been on the C-list and the D-list, and depending on the projects, right? But I think we're all in the working class B-list, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can almost guarantee none of my filmmaking friends as directors or actors or writers or producers have ever been paid what they're worth and a decent wage for what they do. Because they all, you're always going to work, another 100 hours for nothing. Now, of course, if you get at the upper tiers and they pay you, and I've had some movies where I was just a director and they paid me great for 3.5 months, where I made enough money I didn't have to work the rest of the year. Well, that's only happened twice in my entire career. So what I've noticed is I started out with my first movie, we made nothing, right? We made Mosquito and we worked on it for 1.5 years. And, I think at one point I did take $100 or $200 a week here or there, but it was like no money.
Right. Yep.
And I had a family, family of 4. It's no money. Then I get my next movie and I got a really good check. and I worked about 4.5, 5 months, and I directed, and then I did my director's cut, and then I supervised, but I could do other stuff. Then I did a movie after that, and I made really good money. And then from that point, Sci-Fi Channel movies just started to go down, and like the pay got less. Every movie it was less, to where I went down to where this is the money I made on Mosquito. Yeah. And I'm not just working them, for a week. I've got.
But you got Lana Parrilla her start in the movies.
We did.
From Spiders, right? She did. Was that her first movie?
She did a movie before that, but it was interesting because, I was doing Spiders and Tobe Hooper was doing Crocodile at the same time. So we had production offices together. So I'd go hang out with Tobe Hooper, again, Chainsaw. So I met Tobe Hooper like a dream, and we'd sit outside smoking cigars, and he told me all about making Chainsaw.
He's insane. He's insane. He was a guest at my very first Motor City Nightmares.
He was great. Yeah. So the
fun to me.
Long story short was that, so we had 2 productions going and working for New Image Millennium Films, and Toby got to cast his movie first because it's Tobe Hooper. He goes first. Gary goes second. I'm cool with that, man. I'm working next door to Tobe Hooper.
Tobe Hooper.
So Toby got the cast first. He went through all the casting. He pulled all the people that he wanted. Then it was my turn for casting. And of course, he pulled all the cream of the crop. He pulled all the best people. All that was left were, as far as for casting the role for Lana, were there were some decent actresses. They were okay. The problem was they were all like Baywatch. And that character was not she running down the beach in a bikini. That's not what the character was. And I thought, those are the kind of characters, that's fine for some of the other movies. Right. It's, you watch the movie and you know what you're getting, right? It's, you got this character, that, it's all the usuals. Well, my character, I knew she had to be different. I wanted the girl next door. That was the most attractive girl because she was the girl next door, but they could act and kick some ass. And Lana was like one of the last ones who came in, and the casting director said they won't like her because she's brunette. She's not the Baywatch babe that they want to sell all around the world. I go, yeah, but so she came in, and so she walked in the door. I went, oh, I hope she can act because she's perfect. She came in and knocked out of the park for me.
Yep.
And I turned to the casting director. I said, we got to have her. And the producers won't like it. So the producer, my main producer, didn't want her because it wasn't, is New Image making their movies, and they wanted a giant spider, they wanted a beautiful woman on a poster.
Yeah. But look at Lana now. Holy moly.
Well, the executive producer came in, Avi Lerner came in and said, because we were like, I was really pushing for her, and the other producers wanted this other girl, and Avi Lerner, God bless him, came in and he gave me a couple cigars. He goes, okay, so Gary, you want Lana. You guys want her. Well, Gary's the director. If that's what you want, Gary, you got to make it work. We still got to sell the movie. It's got to be great. It's got to play in all the markets. We got to sell to all the markets. So if you want Lana, you get Lana and get out there and make it work. So I'm like, great. And I walked away like, oh shit, man, I gotta, but I was pretty comfortable because I knew I saw her on that screen already.
Way better. It's a better movie because of that. It is a solid movie. Yeah, it is. It's a good movie.
So it was her second movie, and she did a lot of her own stunts, and she was in that helicopter. We had her strapped in, and the helicopter's flying down, and she's leaning out with a bazooka. But,
that's cool. She's tough.
Yeah, the stunt woman actually was dangling from the cable above the Staples Center. Yeah. But then we put Lana in a harness on the stage. And
what is it with helicopters and Avi? What is that? He loves helicopters.
All their action movies, if you look at the posters, they all have helicopters. I mean, the other thing is they'll usually have stock footage of helicopters in a lot of movies.
He just loves helicopters.
Well, the movie Spiders was actually the ending of the movie. It was written by Stephen Brooks, by the way. He's a great writer. And then Adam Garish and Jace Anderson came in, and they did the rewrite on it. And
that's cool.
The shooting script. But me and Steve sat in a room, in an office. We shared an office for about 3-4 weeks going through the script. And it was great, man. It was like, I had a real writer sitting there, and I was sitting there, and we're like, we got to take this big giant movie they wanted, but figure out how to do it. And it was really creative. But, so again, it was like the script had, giant spider on Hollywood Boulevard, and the heroes were going to destroy it by driving a Jeep into it with explosives, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to blow it up in front of Mann's Chinese Theater. So I thought that'll be great. It's iconic. And then I said, well, wait a minute. Why don't we have it crawl up onto the Cinerama Dome, and we can do it, do something there. And they're like, and they go, wait a minute, we want to put a helicopter in this. I'm like, let's go on top of the Cinerama Dome. And then we actually we went up to Griffith Park to the observatory. I thought, same thing, it can climb up there. We wanted something iconic. And we couldn't really do it at the observatory. So we got the Staples Center, downtown LA. So it's real helicopters flying around. That was stunt people hanging off, real cars flipped over, K&B effects, Bob Kurtzman, Howard Berger, and Greg Nicotero, they and their team built this giant spider, big mechanical spider.
Yeah.
That movie was shot. We had all those elements on the set. There was a lot of visual effects too, but we had aspects of everything: small spiders, big mechanical ones, giant mechanical ones.
Yeah.
So they really, we kicked it out of the park.
Those were the best Sci-Fi Channel movies. Those were the Sci-Fi Channel movies I would wait all week to watch, before they started doing all the Sharknado and all the different things. Like I loved the crocodile. I love spiders. I loved all of those,
But I have a thing like I watch, and I go try to see a lot of different movies, and I watch the Marvel movies and stuff, but nothing wrong with them. It's just that I go to the movie and I know when I'm sitting there that 95% of everything I'm going to see doesn't exist. You just know it. Like, you look up and that space monsters flying through buildings and shit, and you're going, there's nothing there. Nobody built that. There's no, they're dropping dust. They're in a green screen, everything.
Yeah.
A simple set is green screen. The people are. They fall 300 feet and land and get up. It's great. It's comic books, but I already know there's nothing there real. So to me, coming from practical effects, you have to build something.
Yeah.
You can augment it. We have this idea about doing Mosquito 2, and I'm like, well, this will be great. I don't have to make the wings flap. I can just put the bug, on a pole with cables, and I can CG the wing flapping, but it'll have a practical bug they can fight with. So you can use this stuff. You need to build stuff. The actors love it. James.
Yeah.
You got that shit to work with.
Right.
If you've got a gun and you can fire a blank, once or twice, and you have a monster, or you can jump.
Or fight with a real monster, right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to like what started off the Marvel stuff, like Iron Man 2, Jon Favreau, like everything was practical in Iron Man 2, Iron Man, the first Iron Man, everything was practical. So everyone's working with something, and then it evolved into everything green screen. That's why Iron Man is so amazing, is because everything is practical. It's so down to earth. You're in it. You're involved. Amazing.
And they did the best of both worlds, right? They made a suit. They made the stuff. But, of course, the helmet's got to wrap around it. Well, okay, they got everything there, right? And then they CG that around him. But then they put him inside his own environment. They're filming. I mean, it's just great. So I think if they can just do more of that, I'm trying to think of the thing I just saw. Oh, I went and saw, what's the new Marvel movie?
Shang-Chi. I haven't seen that yet, but I heard it's fabulous.
Wait, the one that's on
Shang-Chi. It's in the theaters right now.
And I went to the drive-in to see it, to the Norwalk Drive-in in Ohio. And the reason I went was we screened Escape from Death Block 13 on a double feature with Mosquito at the Norwalk Drive-In. So for about 3 weeks running up to it, they played my trailers. So I went there, watched that Marvel movie to get to the intermission to see my trailers, which look great on the big screen. I mean, 200-foot screen. I mean, you can't beat it. But I watched that movie, and I got to say, I enjoyed the movie. The story was simple and it was really good. Yes, it had all the Marvel stuff, but it was an interesting story. And one of my favorite characters was not any of the leads. It's like, that's a standout character. It's a little quirky, but I really liked her. She was, I wanted more of her. But when it got into the, and of course they're doing the rings and everything is all, there's nothing, it's all CG. it just became like this mind-numbing thing of like, holy God, dragons. And I mean, it just was endless. And I'm looking at it going, all I could think about was, and I enjoyed it, all I could think about was like, when this movie's over with, I have to watch 20 minutes of credits to get to my trailer. And I literally watched minutes of just, rows of credits, visual effects, lighting technician, modeler, name and like descriptions of jobs I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Thousands of names. So, it's like anybody starting out in the business, any young people, learn visual effects. You can make money on the side while you're doing your movies, and you'll be able to do your own movies. They hire everybody in the world to work on those movies, but I couldn't make that movie. I mean, I'd love the paycheck and I would give it my all, but I don't know as a director how I could go. It's a gigantic green screen stage and there's markers and a few little props. It'd just be mind numbing to me to like not see stuff because, I plan everything and I storyboard and I do shot lists. But then when I get to the set, and Tommy, this, right? You get there and you can't light it that way, or you have to shoot it at night, or you can't use the living room. You got to use the whatever. So now everything changes. They can't come through the door. They got to come up the steps, whatever. So I do all this prep and throw it away. But when I get to the set, what's so exciting is that you walk into the environment as a filmmaker, a director, and you start to see the movie in different ways, or you start to go, it's not going to work. What do I really need to get out of this? Let me get that one shot. And then if the rest of it's not good, I'll just focus on this,
Yeah.
So I like walking on a set. I like
So
walking the environment. When I did Crocodile 2 Death Swamp, which we shot in India, we actually went to India and we had a lake there and they built a swamp on a raised platform and they flooded.
Good, you didn't go in a real swamp because that was terrifying, that scene.
They actually had a gigantic concrete platform.
Okay.
They would build sets on so you could look out over the lake.
It looked really good.
And
really good.
They took this gigantic platform, it was like a football field, and they built like a 3.5, 4 foot retaining wall and flooded it with about water that goes right up to your crotch, just a little bit above it. So it'd be annoying all day to be in it, right? And that's where we shot the movie. But
poor guys, right?
and Heidi and Anna had to jump in there, and it was, it's nasty. And they pumped the water out of the lake and filled it, and they filled it all with weeds and stuff. But we could actually shoot a movie in it. You weren't sinking. It was a concrete base. Yeah. But we're in it. They're in it. We had practical crocodiles. We had a gigantic set they could climb up and jump in, and it trashed. And we had blanks, as much as we could. So we had things, and but we had all the practicals, and we were living in that swamp. And the actors were miserable because of the environment, the giant bugs, and the water right up at the level that's the most uncomfortable.
Hey, they wanted to be actors. They
wanted to be. But the actors on that, the actors had a hard time, but I got to say, they all knocked it out of the park. They got into it. And if you watch Crocodile 2 Death Swamp, and there's actually a YouTube video out there called The Best of Crocodile 2. If you watch Crocodile 2 Death Swamp, it's probably got more F-bombs than any movie. And that's because it's not in the script. There was so much ad-libbing, because it's 7 people going through swamp, bad guys, good guys carrying loot. Shut the fuck up. What the fuck? Fuck you motherfucker. So
that lead bad guy, I see him in everything. He was terrifying in that lead bad guy. I see him in a lot of shows now.
Oh, John Sclera?
He was very scary in that. That was the first time I'd ever seen him. He was like as scary as like a Last House on the Left kind of guys.
John was really good. I mean, he's intense, and
he was very intense.
He took that part, he took that part, man. And, he had books, he had like serial killer books, the history of serial killers.
Oh, really? Maybe that's why, because he was really scary. He scared me.
He did it. And then James Sparks was great too, playing his part. They each everybody brought something to it, but they were very miserable. But once we got in there, I got to turn those cameras on. There's a performance that's going on. And there's a whole lot of ad-libbing. And I got to tell you, I spent days doing the TV version,
Oh, because you got to cut out all that.
You listen, you friggin' Flack, the puss in the boots, and puss in your boots. I mean, we had to like come up with all these wacky lines because it's just like nonstop. You can't just go for like 20 minutes. So
yeah, that's
but
funny.
no physical things. If it's cold outside and you're an actor and James and you're in the cold, you're in character, right? Because you're cold. So you don't have to think about the cold. It's there.
Actually, I won Best Actor Male Performance at the Indie Gathering Film Festival.
Cool.
And we filmed it in, I guess it would be Macomb County. It was 17 below zero when we filmed the entire thing at night.
Where did you shoot in Macomb County?
Like, oh my God. So there's the train track. So you go like to 20, I guess it'd be like 28th or 32nd, way up north, like in, it'd be north of
Chesterfield.
Yeah. By the train, where the trains are up there.
Yeah.
Wherever that train track is. And we're going back to 2005. And we were pioneers. I was a trail hand that was guiding a elixir, a seller of fine elixirs. And we went to the Indie Gathering Film Festival, and I won Best Male Actor for a short film. And I just noticed your shirt when you said that.
That is so cool. That's so cool.
Like, speaking of cold, because we had a fire that was not even a fire. It was like, can we please have a real fire? He's like, no, we can't have smoke. I'm like, please just give me a fire. I'm dying here.
But on Little Red Devil, you came out in your underwear.
It was the very first movie before you, Tommy. It was the very first movie I ever did. The very first acting job I ever had.
So that's why you got hired, because I knew you'd be great in the cold.
Besides the plays I did, besides any plays I did before that, that was the first.
What was it called?
I ever did. It was called The Whiskey Trail.
That's cool.
Okay.
I think it was like 2004 or 5.
Cool.
That's cool. No, but
I think that was Best Male Actor, because there was like a Best Male Actor for short film. I want to say that's what I'd have to look at the medal. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, real quick, can you tell me a little bit more about Death Block 13? How you got it made, and all the story about a little bit behind it.
How much time do you got?
Well, just a little bit of time. That's why I'm trying to wrap it up, because I know.
13 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. So basically I wanted to do a prison escape movie because I live 20 minutes from the Shawshank prison, the Ohio State Reformatory. And I have friends that work there and been there a dozen times. And I went, man, I got to use this place for something. And I thought, I got to do a prison escape here. I think Shawshank is the only movie. There's been a lot of movies, Tango and Cash, the Stallone escape movie, different things, but nobody's used it like Shawshank did. And I'm like, man, they're not getting the mileage out of this. So I thought, I knew the people, I worked the deal out. I did all their promotional stuff. I shot them like promotional videos. I did all their billboards for their haunt. They run a haunt every year, which is phenomenal. I did all the graphic design for all that stuff. So I did that for a few years for them and got the prison to use for a very, very low rate to shoot in. So I had that. And I'm like, I got to make my movie here. So I had an idea for a prison escape movie. And I knew I wanted to make a throwback to the movies I loved, the Charles Bronson movies in the 70s and 80s, The Getaway, Friends of Eddie Coyle, movies that were about not technology, about a code of honor. If you give someone your word, you honor it. If you owe them $1, you pay $1. If you don't pay, you got hell to pay, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make it a simple throwback movie. And then Jeff Miller said, hey, I'm making this movie called Death Kiss. It's Death Wish, but we're making Death Kiss. And he showed me a picture of Bronzy, and I'm like, you can't do that. That's illegal, man. You can't. That's a scam. That's a ripoff. People are going to be pissed. And then I went, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
So I helped him do Death Kiss, and it's done very well, very low budget. And I met Bronzy at the Texas Frightmare, and I'm like, Bronzy, you got to be in my Escape from Death Block 13 movie. And we sat in the bar, we had a couple of whiskeys and made a deal for 3 movies. And I realized the character I had in the script, I had written it for a character from down south who comes up to Ohio, to collect the debt. And he's kind of from the backwoods. He's a simple guy. And I went, no, I got to use Bronzy as Bronzy. I got to make him a guy from Hungary coming over here.
Right, because he's Hungarian, right?
Hungarian. And Bronzy could do English, but he has to study it. And, he would take the words and flip words, or cut sentences up. So I'm like, I had him read a few lines that I'd written, and I'm saying, now say what you'd say. And then he'd say how he'd interpret it. And I rewrote that down. I'm like, okay, say this. So I had him read a bunch of lines, and I'm just listening. Okay, that's how he's going to talk. So I went back and rewrote all the lines, changed the name, added some stuff that I had talked to him about, that aspects of the movie. And so I made it be a character from Hungary using Bronzy. It totally worked because it's hard for him just to understand English and listen to you, to what you're saying, to respond. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't make it be anything other than that, and it worked great. So he agreed to do it. I had a little bit of financing together. I didn't have very much, but I had enough to shoot 1 week at the prison. And so I shot that 1 week, and we did as much as we could. And I shot pretty much 2/3 of the movie.
Awesome.
And a lot of those 2/3 was background material, because I was going to do a lot of green screen later, because I couldn't be in the cell block for more than a few days. So I shot a lot of plates. And then I did green screen for a lot of close-ups using the cell block plates I shot. So I shot, we shot there. We did that about 6.5 to 7 days of shooting. Then my buddy Josh Becker was doing a Western movie up in Pontiac. He called me up and said, hey, you want to come and help me produce this? And I'm like,
oh, that's the one my son's in.
Exactly, Warpath.
Warpath.
So I said, I made a deal with him. He paid me really good to come up and help him produce. So I went up there and produced Warpath. We knocked that out. Then I had all the visual effects to do, for the movie, which was going to come later. So I took all my money I made on Warpath and went back, and then we went and did the next leg, the rest of the shooting for my movie. So I do this thing where I go work on other movies and I take all the money and put it in my movie. It's kind of, John Cassavetes used to do that.
Yeah, I know how that is. Yep.
Yeah, I
totally understand that. Yeah.
John Cassavetes would act in like The Dirty Dozen and in Rosemary's Baby, then take all the money and make his movies with his wife, Gina Rollins, so that's kind of how it went. And it took a little while because, the movie, it got bigger. Once I got to that location, I went, this movie's going to get big. I got 65 people. I got, 30, 40 inmate wrestlers and 20 guards and fights and action. I mean, it got big. It doubled in size of what my original plan was, but it was one of those things, like I said, when you get to the set and you get to the location, this is the content. I couldn't sell it short. It's like, if I'm going to have a prison riot and they're going to get guns and there's going to be a shootout, it can't be 3 people fighting for 2 minutes and 6 gunshots. It's got to be mini guns and, and the other thing I thought, I was like, it's a drama, right? It's a dramatic movie, an action movie, Escape from Alcatraz, Breakout. But what's the big movies today? It's the Marvel movies. And what do they got in them? You're going to get 45 minutes of action. That's just what they have. Well, that was sort of my niche from Mosquito, Axe Giant to now. I'm like, okay, I got to pull all the stops. So the movie starts out a little slow and it's a drama and it's brutal. And then it becomes action, the breakout, that all that stuff. And then it's 40 minutes of action. It's like nonstop the whole last half of the movie, which you're going to see on the 23rd.
On the 23rd, yes.
You both can make it out at the Lemley.
Yes, that would be great.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I told you he's coming to town.
Yeah,
I'm excited about that.
At the Lemley.
You say he's coming to town. I didn't know that was for.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't finish my sentence. He's coming to town to do a premiere.
Yes. Yeah, we have a lot of the LA cast and crews. It'll be the premiere for them, but we're going to screen it at the Lemley Theater, and we're selling tickets too, so people can come. Yeah. But I got tickets for you both, so
thank you.
That'd be great. Make it. But
all right.
So the that's how I put it together. So it became a big, a bigger production, and I always knew that I had to kind of pull out all the stops, tons of action, and of course I set myself up. Why? Guess what? I didn't have any blanks. So guess what I had to do?
Muzzle flashes.
How many shots did I do muzzle flashes on? So yes, shells, muzzle squibs. I mean,
It's okay. You've done that for me, for my movies too. So,
Exactly.
Yep.
So, that it became, a big challenge. And then, COVID kind of, all my other work dried up last year, 2020, like everybody.
everyone's did.
All my visual effects work went away, like completely. And so I had no income. And I had this movie to finish. I thought, well, I might as well just keep working on the movie.
Yeah.
Nice.
Ramen noodles and rice is fine.
Yep.
Cans of soup are okay. I've done it before, right? I've had steak and I've had lobster,
Yep.
and cheeseburgers and hamburger
Mac and
helper.
cheese, Kraft mac and cheese.
Yeah. What's the gag? I don't know why they call it hamburger helper. It works just fine on its own, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But no,
Absolutely.
the good news is we got it finished, and right away literally within 1 week of finishing, I screened it for several distributors and had a deal in place. And so literally within a week, and got a deal, and I sort of set the bar of what I wanted. I said, I'm not going to do below this. And I send it out, and literally our distributor got it and saw it, and calls the next day, and this Uncorked is doing our domestic release. And Keith Leopard at Uncorked was like, yeah, I want to do this, and we got on a Zoom call, and, it was literally less than a week. And I sort of set the bar what I was looking for. He came right to the table with it and was completely on board. I'm like, let's go to work, And so, yeah, it's really good. So we're coming out. October is really our theatrical screening window. So I've been doing the theatrical myself. I've been taking it out. We've done a screening at the Norwalk Drive-In as a double feature. We're going to be in Michigan at the Ford, Wyoming, which is one of the biggest drive-ins in the country.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we're booked there for at least a week. And then hopefully I'll get some more bookings around the country. But then we have a Columbus screening down at the Gateway. We might be at the Capitol Theater up in Cleveland. We're going to do another Mansfield screening for all the Mansfield people where we shot. We're coming out to LA. And I think I got some stuff in Texas that might happen, in Florida. So I'm doing it's kind of getting out there with its limited, selected theatrical release, but it is a theatrical release. And then November 2nd, we hit all the streaming platforms.
Cool.
Everywhere. And then around the 23rd is the DVD release, which will be in Walmart. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Cause I know there's very few people that release in Walmart, but the ones that do very well.
Yeah.
So,
and it's a good sign because
it is.
That means the movie is on, again, like we talked earlier, get your product on anywhere someone will pay for it.
Yeah.
You have to get it. And
but to get there, it has to be that certain quality. So you really, all that work you put in it is worth it.
And then I must say too, at the very beginning, I hooked up with Jack Campbell from Octane Entertainment, and he released Death Kiss, and he did really well with Death Kiss release. So I called him. I said, hey, look, I'm doing the next Bronzy movie here. And so we worked out a deal, and I said, this is the first time I ever did this, and brought him on, and he came on as my sales rep. So he was out making pre-sales like in 2018 and 2019 while we're still in production.
Oh,
so
wow. So there's still
advantage-
pre-sales nowadays. I didn't even know that there's still.
And it's not like we got tons of money, but he lined up pre-sales. So that allowed me to go say to investors that were putting some money in to help me finish, hey, look, I've already sold X amount of dollars in some foreign territories. Right. So that's been ongoing, and he's gotten more to date now. So that's a continuing thing. So I didn't have to search. I got a sales rep on board when we were started, production. And then within a week of finishing, we had a domestic deal. And then right after the domestic deal, I said, all right, I'm going out theatrical. And I took that on. And that's kind of what I've been spending a lot of my time focusing on right now is getting it out in theaters to get people to know it. And again, it's that thing to get people to talk about it. Yeah. And then within, hey, go find it on those platforms, all those services,
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to be starting a little company with Ruth Daniels over at the Maple Theater. And we're going to take properties and put them in all of the different art houses across the country, because art house theaters need support and they need product. They don't have any product. So that's something that we're thinking of doing. So let us know, and we can help get, even your future projects. At least it'll be four-walled, even if it's not in the main theaters. They're all in the big art house theaters.
Well, that's good, because I was talking to her about that, and I was thinking that's we talked about Death Block, and I told her, hey, I've got
Right.
Mosquito, and she goes, oh, it'd be a great double feature. But I think that's good, in art house movies, it kind of gets a bad rap for some people who don't like, like, oh, I want genre movies. But
Right.
I think when you say art house, what you're saying, it's independent. It's a true independent.
It's just independent,
True.
right? Because she's
True
going to do
independent.
Fright Nights for me there. So she's going
Right.
to do genre every month for us there.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
the
cool.
independent, the indie label thing has been grabbed. Hollywood basically takes it again.
And they do.
They
You're
co-opt
right.
everything. Like I screened one of my movies screened at Screamfest. It was
Yeah.
back in the day, and you could get in there with independent films.
Yeah.
And now it's like, the studios line up and then they take the
Yep.
studio product. So it's
They
like,
take all the studio
you know,
products first.
like,
Yeah.
so
I know.
Sundance, used to be, now you can't get into these things.
No, because Robert De Niro just did a movie and it's independent. So guess what? It's going to Sundance.
So that's the competition we have. So it's
exactly.
so you've got to be creative. Again, it comes down to a story. You have to come up with something that people remember. What's the logo? What's the iconic image? What's the idea that everyone can relate to? Of course, I'm going against my, my advice I give people is keep the titles short and grab them. So I do Escape from Death Block. So I'm like, I just do Death Block 13. And I'm like, it might sound like, a prison camp or, Auschwitz or something. I go, no, it's escape from, escape from New York, escape from LA, escape from. And I thought, at least that it's an escape series, and it also, the word escape ties in with all those movies and the Stallone movies, an escape plan and all that. And it's a name that comes up. So if anybody goes, yeah, I wonder if there's like, isn't there that Stallone movie Escape something? And they start typing escape and all of a sudden it populates with hype from Death Block 13, right?
Right.
So
check it out.
You hope to grab it.
Yeah. But yeah, I've shared it on Motor City Nightmares and everything about Ford, Wyoming. So hopefully a lot of our people will be there.
That'll be great. Yeah.
And that's October 1st, right?
Yes.
October 1st.
It starts
So
October
tomorrow?
1st. Tomorrow night.
All right. Well,
Tomorrow
this won't come out for probably a couple weeks, right?
I'll get on it right away.
We're gonna get on it right away, but also we'll take footage from the premiere. We'll come to your local one here in California, and we'll take some more footage, and we can always use it, do promotion and stuff with it.
For social
Yeah.
media. Social.
So thank you so much for your time. Do you have
Great.
any other
No,
questions, Jim? I'm sure we can talk for hours and hours later.
I have many more questions, but we've already
We have
talked
to do
for an
this
hour
again.
and a half almost.
I know.
Do another one.
We will. We'll have to do another one because you'll still be promoting. So we'll get back with you and as you're like for your DVD release or something.
Right. We need to do another one and talk acting because I have questions for James too. It's like should be because that's a big actors. They want to know like should I be in a movie called Mosquito? Does it help? You
Ask
wonder.
Lana Parrilla. Ask Lana Parrilla.
Well, she
actually
that's the film industry.
is,
my biggest thing with anybody is like, why do film stuff? I'm like, well, how do you learn? How do you do it? I'm like,
exactly.
You got to be on site. It's all about working and understanding. You learn every time you're on site. It's on site education. Like everything you do, right there in front of you. You learn every time you're there.
That's cool.
Yeah, but thanks again so much, and we'll be in touch soon. And I will see you for sure in a few weeks.
Great. Looking forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome chatting with you, man.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.